Now for the eighth wonder of the world, basically a geek show. And here are your hosts, Mike and Jack.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 55 of Basically a Geek Show. I'm Mike. With me, as always, is Jack.
I'm fucking pissed.
Let's just delve right into it, shall we? Blizzard Entertainment has lost their goddamn minds.
They're fucking idiots. And this recording software is fucking idiotic. This is our second take of this, people. It just recorded for 6 minutes and was like, fuck you. Except it was a ninja fuck you. And it didn't even have the decency to tell me that it had stopped recording so that I could punch it in the fucking face. But yes, take two.
Take two. Blizzard has lost their minds. So let's talk about that again, shall we?
Yes. One of the Blizzard lead developers, Jeremy Fiesel, who I will be calling Fiesel the Weasel, because there is much weaseling going about here. And
that's the level of wit that you can expect on, Basically a Geek Show. That level of wit as we strive to be blocked by another WoW developer.
You'd think a guy named Don Adams would have a better sense of humor.
Yeah, you really would, but, apparently not. Apparently we crossed the line, sir! But let's continue crossing. The Rubicon was crossed, let's just keep on marching ahead.
So this is this Twitter conversation with this Fiesel guy, who again is evidently one of the lead developers, because they're very quick to point that out. It's a team of developers. You can't blame just one person. We're all collectively stupid. It just makes it worse, guys, not better. Mm-hmm. Just saying. Mm-hmm. So, Fiesel says it's a, quote-unquote challenge of making continually interesting twists as a designer. Mm-hmm. Alright. The follow-up to that was cutting content as a twist? You hired 40% more workers and yet still cut content, and then you say making things excited is hard.
Yes.
Then Fiesel responds with, making things unique after many things have been done is challenging, but it's a very fun challenge. For who?
First of all, the implication there being that everything that has been done, that you can do in Warcraft has been done, is basically what he's saying.
It's an implication to me that someone's sitting there fucking watching reruns on Lifetime with their fucking pinky in their dick hole in a butt plug. Mm-hmm. Because they evidently have no goddamn clue what the fuck they're doing, or at least no clue on how to fucking communicate it, because this is fucking bullshit. 6.1 had virtually no content in it except for a fucking selfie thing in a jukebox, and I seen a fucking headline today on the news with an elephant taking a selfie. So an elephant can fucking figure that out, guys. Good show. And you've got this numbnut sitting here, saying, oh, it's hard to make stuff fun. Well, you're a video game designer, you blithering twat. Fucking figure it out. Jesus Christ. What the hell? 6.1 comes out. They have a 3 million subscriber loss in 1 quarter. That's more than Cataclysm or Pandaria. Not necessarily combined, but more than took place in either of the lifespans of either of those expansions. In 1 fucking quarter. Mm. They've achieved more subscriber loss in 1 quarter than either of the preceding expansions have during their entire 2-year life cycle. Mm-hmm. They should get an achievement pop-up for that.
And this isn't even necessarily a problem with Draenor in and of itself. I mean, the expansion, we've praised the expansion in a lot of ways. It's been fun. It's been exciting. The story's been good. The questing was downright enjoyable. It didn't feel like a slog at all. But for, whatever reason, content, they just haven't figured out how to make it work on that level.
Yeah, so many things have been done so right with this expansion, and that just makes me more angry, though, because this had so much potential. They did so many things beautifully with this, that showed that, at least that they had a lucid moment that they used to create this. I mean, the potential is there, and there is so much potential with this expansion that could have been the best. And I see that, I don't see it slipping away. It's already slipped. It's down the toilet, and now all you have is a faintly bad smell in the room. Mm-hmm. it could have gone so far. It could have been so much better. You know, if they had just followed up on, well, for one thing, have a successful launch, you know, without most of the player base having an issue. But even beyond that, I mean, people are pretty forgiving for the most part with things like that on a launch week. I mean, Diablo 3 was horrendous at launch, and it went on to become very popular. So, I mean, you know, players are pretty forgiving about a bad launch of an expansion or a game. Mm-hmm. But, you know, since then, most importantly, you had 6.1 with its lack of content, and not a single person has really stepped forward to say why. All you get is this very semi-politician type. This very political kind of pandering and weaving and flopping and all this other shit. Mm-hmm. No clear, concise speech. And, you know, like you and I said last week, you know, if Ghostcrawler were still with Blizzard, we may not like what he is telling us about what went wrong and who tripped over the fucking power cord, but at least we would know what happened and where their minds were at the time.
Well, the thing about Ghostcrawler, right, and we were often on the brunt of a lot of his decisions because as Paladins, it became very obvious that how Ghostcrawler saw the Paladin class working was not necessarily how we saw it working, how it should work.
Right.
And so a lot of the things he would do with the Paladin class, you know, we would disagree with. But if you would voice those concerns to Ghostcrawler, he'd answer you in such a way that you would, even if you were doing it begrudgingly, you'd admit, okay, that makes sense. Right? And you're not getting that here. Like, some of his replacements, or his successors are going on, like, basically saying, hey, guys, like, okay, making the game good is hard, so, you know, lay off. And right. I'm sorry, but that. Even if you guys have a good point in there, you have to be able to convey it in a way that will at least reassure the player base that the game isn't in the hands of a bunch of idiots who think that a content patch of no content is a quote-unquote twist. It's a bug, it's a feature, not a bug, guys.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And you know, the thing is, I'm sure there are probably some people out there who would say, well, you know, players have an entitlement mentality when it comes to communication now, and, you know, it's their game, and we can voice our dislike of it by not playing it. And the thing is, to a degree, I hate to admit that is true. Maybe we are asking for and expecting too much, but at the same time, World of Warcraft it's one of those games that has transcended a mere game. I mean, it has become such a, you know, again, we kind of touched on this last week, but it's become such
I don't know, maybe social media is almost a better term for it, almost.
It has
kind of a game that sort of morphed into a game social media type hybrid situation.
It's its own community, basically. It's more than just a game, it's its own community. And Blizzard, you know, they are the caretakers of this community, and the players are the ones who are funding the continued, you know, existence of this community. And so we have a symbiotic relationship here with them, and we want to know that, you know, us handing them their money is ensuring certain things, such as that this is being handled responsibly. And, you know, what this guy is saying, I mean, I'm sure this isn't what he meant for it to sound like, but basically he's just, you know, coming out and saying that, well, we decided that since there's been content in patches before, we were going to try something different and not have any.
Shevalandia!
Yeah, I mean, you know, we got M. Night Shyamalan. And I mean, again, that's probably not what he's meaning to say, but it certainly sounds like it.
As that, yeah.
Right. And then he's just, you know, well, making stuff fun is hard, but it's a fun kind of hard. Jesus. I don't know what the fuck these people are smoking.
Like, I understand it, and I said it again, I said it previously on our last show, that maybe, you know, this is a case where you just need to they need to get used to how these 2-patch expansions are going to work, and they just need to get used to the pacing, right? And if that's all 6.1 was, just, kind of a hiccup, kind of an experiment, kind of a way to see how all this would work, and we're going to go off to the races now and get, patch after patch, expansion after expansion of new content, okay, that's fine. But, one, we don't know. We just don't know that for sure yet. And two, nobody's telling us anything. If Ghostcrawler were here, he'd tell us, hey, this is what we have in mind, this is what we're trying, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but we think it's worth a shot, but we're not getting that with anyone currently.
Yeah, there really is there is nothing that resembles clear, concise communication here. So, and the thing is, even with Ghostcrawler, it would be a case of, there would be a change made to the game. People would rage about it, and he would say, well, this is what we were thinking, this is why we did it, and this is how it's going to continue to be. And then, of course, flash forward a couple years, or even a few months, and be like, yeah, you know what, in retrospect, you guys were right, we shouldn't have done that. Oh, well, live and learn, I guess. Mm-hmm. And we'd just be like, oh, okay, well, fair enough. And we'd go on. But there's none of that here. There's none of that mutual communication, I don't see that mutual trust here anymore. I don't know what they are doing. I don't know where their minds are at, but they're not where they should be, if you ask me. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I mean, you've got, again, what could have been one of, if not the best expansion they've yet made, and they've pretty much shat all over it at every opportunity. Mm-hmm. Now, I will give them the fact that it could just be me, but it seems like patch 6.2 is coming about a bit quicker than the average major patch.
It is, which is why I'm still a bit optimistic in that maybe they just needed to get that, flub out of their system, out of the way early before they started hitting the pavement, right? And if that's true, then okay, that's cool, but one, after 6.1, you're gonna have to prove yourselves again. And two, we'd be a lot less concerned if someone would tell us what's going on.
Right. The only thing that's really, you've had this guy saying something, then you had the other guy that said, I can't wait until patches have content again. Mm-hmm. Well, you fucking moron, you're one of the ones making the goddamn patches. Put content in them. Jesus, seriously? I don't fucking get it. I really don't. Mm-hmm. The thing is, I almost wonder if this was a case of these were things that were meant to be in the expansion at launch, mm-hmm. that they didn't have time to put in, and so 6.1 was just kind of like an addendum of things that they had wanted to be in the box.
I think there's some truth to that, because one of the big things in 6.1 was the heirloom tab.
Right.
But if you go back and track Warlords of Draenor's development, they were talking about early on that the heirloom tab would be in at launch. Right?
Yeah.
So that was obviously something that they wanted to get out in the box that got pushed further down the line to 6.1. So it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of this stuff was, maybe they were a bit rushed getting 6.0 out. And so they cut a bunch of stuff where you're like, okay, we'll save that for 6.1, even though it won't actually add any new content, but we'll save that stuff for then. And then, I think you're onto something with that.
I don't know.
if it's all a learning experience, that's one thing, right? But if it is a learning experience, and if it is a process whereby you learn from your mistakes and you're picking yourselves up off the mat, then tell us. Don't tweet crap that basically amounts to making the game good is hard. Okay, because then you just sound like an incompetent jackass.
The thing is, okay, and I get what you're saying, where it's a bit of a learning process and all that, and I get that. My thing is this something that needed to be learned? Mm-hmm. Or do we need to learn that if you put a patch out with no content, people aren't going to like it and you're going to lose subscribers? Is that something that we need to learn? I don't think it should be. I mean, I understand where they may not have.
Well, it's a confusing situation because, okay, Draenor's expansion was delayed by 6 months or a year. I can't remember which one. But it was delayed because they hired they expanded their development team by 40%, but then they had to train all those people and that pushed things back. And I understand that.
Right.
But
how long does it
everyone
fucking
should
take
be
to
up to
train
speed.
them?
Yeah, everyone should be up to speed by now. So I'm not getting why there's so much, why they still seem to be stumbling.
I mean, maybe if they had one team, working on the filler content, basically, that was supposed to have been in the box at launch, and then they had a separate team working on an actual content patch, and they're like, okay, well, we'll just make this 6.1, and then, a month or two later, we'll have, or a couple months later, we'll have 6.2. How long has it been since 6.1? Like 3 months?
Yes. Around that, more or less.
Yeah, and it's already loaded into the launcher. It hasn't gone live yet. And that is a little bit, usually their average patch cycle, I want to say, is about 5 to 6 months, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere around in there. So, I mean, there is that. So maybe that's what they did. And they just kind of underestimated how bad it would hurt to have a patch with no content. At the same time, though, all of this is just moot because it could have been solved with just one simple thing: communication.
Indeed. Just talk to us.
Right.
Talk to us.
If they had said, hey, 6.1 is going to be a little bit skimpy. We're putting in a lot of stuff that we had meant to get in at launch, but at that point the game had already been delayed so much that we wanted to get it out to you guys. So 6.1 is going to be a little bit light on content, but we're going to be working harder to get 6.2 out to you as quickly as possible, and things are looking good for that. And just bear with us because we're trying a lot of different things with our pacing and in our expansion life cycles, so you may see a few hiccups there. Now, I'm not going to say it would have solved all of the problems that we've had with this, because of course not everyone's going to read it, but it would have helped. Mm-hmm. You probably would have seen a subscriber drop maybe of 2 million instead of 3, something like that. It would have helped a bit, and it was something that they didn't do that once more should have been a no-brainer.
Indeed. It just, communication, guys. Communication.
Yeah.
Let's move on, though, to something a bit more interesting. I talked about Avengers 2 Age of Ultron last show. Jack, you've seen it since then.
I did see it, yeah. I kind of agree with you in most cases. In some ways, it was better than I expected, so far as it pertains to Ultron. He actually was kind of an interesting character.
Oh, he still had the general destroy all humans, I'm a sentient AI shtick going. I mean, that was still there, but he was presented in a fresh way. I personally liked the personality they gave him.
Yeah, James Spader did a good job with it. His performance was pretty, I would say it's probably the second best performance in any movie that you can have where Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. Because you can't get any better than just playing yourself in a suit.
Yeah.
So, there's that. But it was easily the second best performance in the movie, and I'm sure some would probably say the best if you're not a particularly big Iron Man fan. But I did really enjoy it, that part of it. The movie, though, as a whole, if I had to say one thing, it just felt disjointed. Like, I didn't see it that long ago, maybe 4 days ago or something, and I was completely sober when I watched it, and yet I have trouble remembering most of it.
Well, what did you think of Hawkeye?
He's finally where he needs to be. which is kind of just like this ancillary character who makes a quip now and then that's mildly amusing, and then we all move on. Though evidently his wife does not give a shit about him.
I always approve of your avenging.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing. Okay, there's a scene where they're standing at the window, and he says, uh, or she says, I think she's like, I look down there and I see a god, and I see a monster, and I see all this other stuff, and he cuts in and he says, yeah, and you think, where do I fit, or you think, why do they need me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she says, no, I think they need you all the more. And it's kind of like, okay, lady, he gets it, why don't you?
Well, she just wants him out of the house.
Right, she either wants him out of the house or wants him to get fucking killed. One of the two, because he is clearly out of his league here.
I mean, yeah, so the villains in the Marvel universe, Thanos is like a space death god.
No,
a guy with a bow and arrow, he's not gonna do much against that.
I am going to say one thing, and I didn't mention this last week because of the fact that I had not seen the movie yet, and I wanted to actually see the scene in question myself to see if I could detect the source of many people's ire about this.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with Black Widow, are you aware of that?
I didn't know there was any ire over Black Widow, but go on.
Okay, that scene in the safe house where she's talking to Banner, and he's like, you don't want to be with me. I'm a monster. I can't even have kids.
Oh, and she says, I can't either. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And evidently that got a lot of feminists up in arms.
I don't see how, because it's like the people who did that to her won't portrayed positively.
Well, no, it wasn't that at all. It was the fact that evidently she got so broken up about it.
Oh, that she can't have kids, and that made... Oh,
right.
Okay, I got it.
They feel that that's putting too much emphasis on that being who she is, or some shit like that. And you know what? Here's my thing. Shut the fuck up. Because it made sense in the scene. It made sense in the context of that scene.
Mm-hmm.
And the other beef has been that was basically like the only characterization that she had in the movie, when there could have been other things brought up that would have...
I thought the bigger part of her characterization wasn't that she couldn't have kids. It was that she wanted to be in a relationship with someone who it wasn't possible to be in a relationship with, and I think that's something that people of both genders can relate to.
Very much so.
So I'm not seeing a problem there. I mean, that's just a common dramatic trope.
Right,
and what it is.
Yeah, and here's the other thing with that, though, and that's that, hardly anyone got any real characterization in this fucking movie except Ultron. I mean, seriously, they were hopping about from seed to seed for future movies at such a pace that, it really, you were right, it did feel like it suffered for that.
Yeah, but don't you think it would have been a stronger movie if the plot had just focused on, the Avengers having to stop Ultron? They didn't worry so much about, the Infinity Gem and Vision.
Right, yeah, and it's so much of it, especially the stuff with the Infinity Gem, it felt like exactly what it was. A second plot shoved in, running congruent, not in any way really all that effectively synergizing with the actual plot. Two plots running parallel, where one is going to branch off into another movie, and it's not they didn't make it gratifying enough to do that, but they made it too obvious to. Mm-hmm. They made it so obvious that it actually hindered the main plot, and
What did you think of Thor's freaky vision quest?
I don't really remember that much about it.
It's it's weird. Like, he has this dream of he's in Asgard, and there's a orgy or something.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, I do remember that. That explains why I don't remember. I kind of spaced out for a second after I've seen the orgy. It was a thing. Again, that part right there was almost kind of like a Michael Bay movie for me. There were so many things going on. It was all shot up really close, and there was so much stuff flashing about. You really couldn't tell what the fuck was going on.
Hey, don't be dissing Michael Bay. He's got the eyes of an eagle.
Well, and a gift from above, but still, he there's always all this shit going on screen, like in an action scene, and you kind of have to watch them a few times and find out what the fuck is going on. Slow it down a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And this was kind of the case with that, and to me, it's like, if you don't give a fuck about what you're filming enough to show it in a coherent manner, then I don't give enough of a fuck to try to figure out what you're trying to mean. And that was kind of what I did with that little vision quest thing. I'm like, alright, well obviously, this is not important, otherwise you would have made it stand out better. And I just pretty much dismissed it.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, Thor does go on rambling about it. Well, that's cute, whatever. I'm sure you'll get that sorted out there, little guy. And
I thought it was funny how during they were arguing over whether or not they should bring Vision to life, and then Thor just pops in with his hammer. He's like, "Hey guys, bring it to life."
Well,
It's like he just missed that entire argument. He's like, "I'm just gonna do what I want."
I'm Thor, bitches, son of Odin. The son of Odin thirsts for more coffee.
You cannot defeat the son of Odin.
The first Thor movie was the best thing with him in it.
Yeah, because he was it might be a bit lowest common denominator, but I still get it. I still get a laugh out of seeing like Thor in like just a modern setting.
It is kind of an overused trope, but
it was done well.
Yeah, it was done well with Thor, and it was funny, and I enjoyed it.
Like when he freaks out in the hospital and all the doctors are trying to restrain him, it's like, "You cannot defeat the son of Odin," and then someone sticks him with like the happy juice. He's like,
Son of Odin goes seepy now. But, and at least we didn't have Loki. But my basic thing with this movie was that, it did a lot better with Ultron than I thought it would. And that's good. I mean, how many times have we bitched about movies with inadequate villains? They made Ultron an adequate villain. Still not what I would have really wanted as a first choice for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I would, bring back the Mandarin or let's see some Hydra stuff going on.
Again, I want to point out that Robert Downey Jr. originally pitched to do the Mandarin properly as the villain for the first Avengers film.
Yeah.
Because Robert Downey Jr. actually grew up an Iron Man fan.
Yeah, and did he ever say anything about how he felt about how it was done in Iron Man 3?
I think they paid him enough money to not say anything overly negative, but there is like an interview out there where he's like, "It is what it is."
Yeah.
So he basically said, they drove a dump truck of money up to my house, and well, that's the movie, folks.
Yeah. Well, it started with me bitching about the script, and then I looked out the window, and I seen a convoy of dump trucks filled with money. And suddenly, I've seen the creative genius behind it.
Yeah, so, the reason why I bring it up, obviously to get your perspective, Jack, but also because I think you're in agreement with me that Avengers Age of Ultron not quite as good as the first one.
Oh, definitely not. No.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Well, apparently we're not the only two who feel this way. I'm reading an article by Forbes, so this just isn't average, internet fan rage. This is from, a respected economic journal. A story actually published today, this morning. And it's from a fellow called Scott Mendelson. Box office: Avengers Age of Ultron takes 24 whole days to make $400 million.
Godzilla made 300 its opening weekend.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Exactly. Now, Avengers Age of Ultron, alright, had a fantastic opening weekend. Opening weekend, basically.
Right.
But that momentum, unlike the first Avengers movie where that pace was maintained, this has seen a steady drop from that first huge bump. Just gonna read a quick little blurb. Walt Disney's Avengers Age of Ultron will cross the $400 million mark this afternoon, becoming the 20th film in box office history to do so. The film has earned $403 million domestically as of today. The Marvel superhero sequel will cross the threshold on the 24th day of release, making it the fourth fastest film to cross the milestone behind Avatar, The Dark Knight, and The Avengers. So...
It's still not doing bad, though.
It's not doing bad, but it's also not doing as well as people expected it to.
See, though, I don't know. That's a slippery slope when it comes to stuff like this. Well, just hear me out. It's like, all right, so you have this movie. It's doing, by all accounts, very well, but it's not doing as spectacularly well as the first one. And that thinking is how we end up with so many fucking cookie-cutter movies.
I can see that, but at the other end of the spectrum, everything I kind of got from this movie, right, is that, and you touched on it earlier, you know, how they were just trying to seed so much crap for future movies, is that when I watched that movie, my takeaway of it was, I'm a comic book fan, I know where all of this is leading to, I can get it, it's fine. But I'm trying to look at it like, if I wasn't a comic book fan, how would all of this look?
Well, I just told you, disjointed.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. So, I'm trying to take that into account, and then I see that this movie isn't doing as well as it was projected to do, as well as its predecessor, and my only reaction, really, it has to be, could this be the first sign that Marvel has perhaps stretched itself a bit too thin?
Maybe. I mean, it is possible that they'll learn from it and kind of rein things in a little bit. I mean, I'm a fan of the comic book characters. I'm not so much a fan. I'm not a fan of comic books. I simply lack the exposure that you've had to them. It's not that I have a dislike of them. I honestly don't. I quote unquote like comic books. I've just never really had them around. I've never, I didn't grow up with them very often. Very seldom did I have comic books growing up. And as an adult, lacking that, I guess, nostalgia or that tradition of having them, I haven't really sought out very many of them. So, therefore, most of my exposure to these characters has been through movies or cartoons or what have you, where I've thoroughly enjoyed them. But I can say, coming from that standpoint, Avengers 2 felt like felt disjointed. The plot at times it did suffer. It had a bit of kind of this, I don't want to say quite incoherence, but it definitely wasn't as seamless. It didn't feel as seamless as the first one.
And again, that's all I'm saying is that if most of your movie-going audience won't be comic book fans. So if they're going in and they're saying, and if they're, they saw it on opening weekend and people ask, oh, should I see Avengers 2? And they're like, yeah, it was alright, I guess. Less people want to see it. That drop-off happens. And now, maybe Marvel stretched themselves too thin. Again, I'm not saying this is necessarily the beginning of the end, but it's been a fear that everyone has had that eventually we get to the point, because it happens in comic books. It happens in comic books to the point. That's why you have so many of these company-wide crossovers and reboots in the comic book industry. Because eventually things get stretched so thin that you have to knock it all back down to square one in one way or another and start again. And, if it happens in the comic book industry, it stands to reason that it'll happen quicker in the film industry.
Right.
And that's all I'm saying, that we've gotten to that point now where maybe it's time to rein things in before things get overextended a bit too much. And, no, Avengers 2 is not doing horribly. It's doing pretty good, all things considered, but the numbers don't lie. I think less people are interested in seeing Avengers 2 than Avengers 1. And that's, I think, if you're trying to plot out a long-term film franchise like Marvel is trying to do, you gotta take lessons from that.
I think it's an indicator of something else, as well. And this something is kind of beyond Marvel's, blame, I guess, beyond their control. and I've kind of touched on this before in, previous episodes,
Hmm.
but I'm really becoming of the belief that movies are no longer, well, at least when it comes to something like this, because we've seen this trend lately in movies where we don't get a self-contained movie. We get trilogies, we get series, we
I
get,
will say something. You know who did self-contained movies and did them in a series? Michael Bay of Transformers. Think about it. First Transformers film ends with Megatron completely defeated. He's dead.
right, no, I get it, but what I'm saying is, for things like what Marvel is trying to do with the
Hmm.
Avengers, and their universe as a whole, I am now of the belief that episodic television, be it through Netflix or, a higher quality broadcaster, is the way to go. And we haven't really talked about this much in any of our episodes, but I did watch Daredevil. Some know it as Daredevil, I believe, but I just see it and I read Daredevil.
Yeah, and you were telling me that was actually pretty good.
And it
You
was.
enjoyed it.
Right, it was, because you actually got this origin story of this character.
Which is basically, I'm blind, now I have supersonic hearing, bye.
Right, but the thing is, they did make it more than that. They put a lot more into it. There was more characterization. There was more shit that made sense.
And less Ben Affleck.
Yeah, and the Netflix Daredevil is proof positive beyond the shadow of a doubt. If either of our wonderful listeners out there had any doubt in their minds that one thing in this universe holds true, anything is made better instantly by the removal of Ben Affleck. Instantly, remove Ben Affleck and it is better. Just by sheer merit of that alone.
Well, I mean, we're sort of in the golden age of television, when you think about it. I mean, a lot of people say back, oh, the 50s, golden age of television. I think about it, what we've got going on right now.
We call it television because it's the closest thing that we've got in a term for it, but it's not TV the way you and I knew it growing
Well,
up.
I'm not even just talking about Netflix. I mean, Netflix does have
Right.
stuff like Daredevil, and it's got House of Cards, both excellent shows. But but just in what I guess we would consider more mainstream television channels, we've got HBO knocking it out of the park with Game of Thrones. Rome before that was fantastic. Deadwood, another good one from HBO.
Yeah, and
then we've got on AMC Walking Dead and Breaking Bad.
right. And so, yeah, I mean, in both senses, both mediums, internet and television, it could very well be effectively argued that we are in kind of a second golden age of television, which, as far as I'm concerned, is far superior to the first because fuck, I Love Lucy.
Well, I would say this is the third. You're going to hate me for this, but I think Seinfeld ushered in the second.
No, and no, actually though, I'm not going with this where you think I am. Besides the fact that Seinfeld was utter shite.
Oh, no.
The thing is, what I'm saying is, okay. It didn't have that much of a greater influence on TV as a whole. It was a show that came and went.
I would argue against that because since Seinfeld, and I can think of two shows off the top of my head, those both being the Drew Carey Show and Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I'm sure there are others if I care to look them up. Point or think a bit longer on the subject, but point being that what made Seinfeld unique at the time was that there were no good guys. There was no pat happy ending. All of the main characters in Seinfeld were terrible people. No lessons were learned. And that is something I think you've seen a lot more of in the sitcom genre since then. It used to be that sitcoms were very formulaic. Everyone learned a happy, lesson at the end of it, and some crisis was resolved. And Seinfeld came along, so this is just the everyday lives of four terrible people. And then you started to see a little bit more of that come through in other shows after Seinfeld. So I'd say Seinfeld helped, I guess, redefine what is considered a sitcom.
I'm not going to argue it with you, but I will say that is very much subject to debate.
Okay.
Whereas with what we see now, it's a much more, would you not at least agree that what we're seeing now is a much more broader and more widely impacting trend?
I would say so. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I would say so. I can't remember if I brought this up on the show or not because, our shows and our regular conversations just tend to blend together in my mind. But, so I'll just throw this out there. I was actually talking with, the head of the history department at the university, where I got my degree in history. And I was talking to him actually, and he told me something very interesting. That
you're an overeducated elitist?
Well, he is too, so,
Ooh,
we don't like to call each other that.
Touché.
But he said something interesting, that since Game of Thrones has started, like the show has started, there has been a massive increase in history students wanting to specialize in medieval history. It used to be in the history, in history at the university level, people wanted to learn anything. It was basically anything from the Renaissance onward were their fields of study, like either that or classical history, like Greece, Rome, Egypt, that sort of thing.
Right.
Medieval history was sort of, for the longest time, for decades, this sort of dead this dead area where like you only had one, maybe two professors for a university who specialized in it. Nobody really tried to specialize in it from the student level at either, the undergrad or graduate levels. But now Game of Thrones comes out, right? And suddenly everyone entering history now from that point onward is like, oh, I want to specialize in medieval history.
Right. And that doesn't surprise me. I think that's kind of cool, actually, in a lot of ways. I think, history is always something that people should take a greater interest in. You and I have always been of one mind about that.
Mm-hmm.
I just lament the fact that it's not more marketable than what it is. But, hey, whatever. It's still good to know in any event. But yeah, no, that doesn't surprise me.
I was just bringing that up as a point as to what you said, having farther-reaching consequences that, this, I guess, second or third, whatever you want to call it, the current golden age of television that we are in, it's not only impacting television, but, like, actual things that matter in the world. Like it's actually reinvigorating an entire academic field that had previously sort of been left for dead.
And my thoughts on this are that Marvel has, I will admit, regardless of what I think of their current offerings in terms of quality, they really have kind of in a lot of ways revolutionized the way movies are made.
Mm-hmm.
The way stories are told through movies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they first started, it was very ahead of its time.
Well, we've talked about one of the running themes, I guess, of the show has been how different studios, Sony in particular, have been falling and flailing, trying to emulate the cinematic universe idea that Marvel started with.
Yeah, and the one thing that I think Marvel could not have foreseen when they started this, and now at this point they're so far into it, I don't think they can really reverse or change course.
Oh, no, we're far past.
But the one thing that they could not have foreseen is the way that television has evolved, since then. And I can't help but wonder, if they had it to do over again, if they wouldn't have chosen that, because I think it would be a much more effective way to do things like the Avengers, in a way where it comes across as much more coherent, tighter storytelling, or at least a loose enough format to where they can do everything they want to do and it not be condensed into this 2.5 hour format where everything comes across as feeling kind of wonky.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would serve itself better in that medium. But, again, that is what it is. That's not Marvel's fault. They couldn't have seen it coming. They were forward thinking enough as it is. I can't fault them for that. But I can't help but wonder, because Daredevil is done wonderfully. Mm-hmm. And, I walked away from, the first season, which is 13 episodes. I walked away from those feeling a lot more fulfilled than I have with your average superhero movie as of late.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Though speaking of Netflix, and we're going to skip one thing here real quick just because we're kind of on the subject
Okay.
Speaking of Netflix and TV and this new second or third golden age of television, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to wipe our ass with that theory for a moment.
Because, Firefly fans have been petitioning Netflix to bring the show back as a Netflix exclusive.
Yes.
And, they're not doing that, but Jack, why don't you tell us what they are putting their money behind?
They're bringing back Full House. It's going to be called Fuller House because that's a word. Technically, that's a last name. It's not even a word. I don't think. Is Fuller even a word?
Is Bob Saget going to be involved?
I thought you were going to say, is Bob Saget a word? Unconfirmed. Unconfirmed, though, it is expected that he will return. Dave Coulier is coming back, clearing out his infinitely busy schedule.
Yeah, what else has he been doing?
Yeah.
Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, are we just gonna, let's just do that. Let's just bring everyone back.
Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen have actually declined to return.
I laugh because it's not like they're doing much either.
Right, exactly. And that's what made me, want to bring this up on the show. I was reading this and it said Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen will not be returning for Fuller House. And I'm like, what the fuck have they got going? I mean, seriously?
The direct to video movies that they did, that's been long dead.
I mean, surely they can interrupt the binge and purge cycles long enough to fucking, for a few hours a day. I mean,
that might be why they don't do it, because maybe one of them's too skinny and they can't do the switcheroo that they did.
Mary Kate ate a sandwich, we're doomed. I mean, Jesus.
Was anyone asking for Full House to return? Was this a need that people said they had? Really?
Dude, I don't fucking know. I really don't. I'm sure someone was somewhere. I sure as fuck haven't heard about it.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, that's the thing.
I understand it was on for 9 seasons, right? But I was under the impression that Full House was only on for 9 seasons.
And for the record, the great tribulation of the revelation is only supposed to last for 7 years. Full House was 9.
I'm gonna steal a bit from the nostalgia critic right here, but I do like how in Full House, the opening title sequence, they show a shot of Alcatraz, the show was set in San Francisco, because what better symbolism for your show than the sight of an inescapable prison?
So yeah, most of the original cast though is of course returning because fuck it, what else have they got going on at the moment?
Who else was it? Stamos is coming back?
Yep, John Stamos, yep.
Yeah, no, exactly. Bob Saget out of everyone probably had the best career, and he just did that by being a fucking pervert on the stand-up comedy circuit.
Bob Saget is one of the few people that I can say has a worse mouth than I do.
Bob Saget, if he comes back, I want him to just come back as stand-up Bob Saget.
I would sign up for that in a heartbeat.
I can't even remember what the fuck his character's name was on the show. I don't know.
Danny, I think? Was it?
I don't know. I don't know, and I knew we were talking about this on the show, but it was Full House, so I just didn't give enough of a shit to look it up, because that's how much...
And I still don't give enough of a shit.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't, okay, call him that name if you have to, but just have him, don't explain it. It's just that in between then and now, he's become a pervert.
A foul-mouthed pervert.
And have everyone else remain, wholesome and inoffensive, but then he just walks in and he's like, dick shit, fuck!
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Full House, God, can't bring back Firefly, but, Full House! We need a, I hope the Full House return crosses over with the X-Files return. And during one episode of the new Full House, Mulder just kicks the door down. He's searching for aliens or something. I don't know. Give me a reason to tune in.
Can we maybe, like, combine it with a television reboot of the A-Team?
Liam Neeson doesn't have anything going on at the moment, so sure.
Or better yet, Dexter. Let's bring Dexter back and have that crossover.
Oh, fuck Dexter. Fuck that show.
No, I'm not saying I really care for the show. I haven't watched enough of it. But, what I am saying is I just want to see those characters interact because I think that'd be fucking interesting as shit.
No. If you want to go that route, what you gotta do is you gotta go with the, TV show called Hannibal, which is like the television reboot of the Hannibal Lecter series.
That could work too. So yeah, a Full House reboot.
Bob. Your liver looks like it would go nice with some red wine. Chicanti.
So yeah, a Full House reboot works great if it's paired with
a serial killer?
Yes, or a paramilitary organization. I think that's the only way. I mean, really, who the fuck was sitting there saying, you know what, didn't get a good enough of a run? Full House. I mean, okay, because, like, there
are still stories to be told, damn it!
Like, they resurrected Arrested Development, which kind of had this reputation of being a show that, you know, was killed before its time.
Uh-huh.
And that's been pretty much their precedent for resurrecting old shows. Yeah, everything.
Firefly only got 14 episodes.
Right, Firefly. I mean,
Firefly, I think, is everyone's go-to example of a show that cut before its time. But I got others. Greg the Bunny. Can we bring that back?
That was done.
No, I know, but that was done stupidly.
And it was horrendous.
Let's bring it back properly.
Yeah, let's bring back fucking Greg the Bunny. I'm with you on that.
Titus.
Yes, I'm with you on that one too. And goddamn, let's bring back Alf.
Nah, if they brought back Alf, they'd CGI it.
Okay, bring back Alf, caveat, done right.
Yeah. Who's in there? Full House still has stories to be told, damn it.
You know, who lamented the loss of Full House? Especially after 9 fucking seasons.
I remember, even when it was on, I didn't give a shit about Full House, and I was like 10. I didn't care. Like, I watched Transformers or Full House. I'm watching Transformers. Sorry, Full House doesn't have Optimus Prime.
Hey, there's another crossover opportunity.
Oh, Bob Saget, do you have your grandfather's glasses?
Who the fuck is this fucking dick? What the shit are you fucking talking about?
Full House 2! Revenge of the Fallen! I mean, what, Stamos can kinda pass as an older Shia LaBeouf, sort of.
Yeah, I can see that.
No, and Megan Fox could play whatever Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen's role was.
So yeah, moving on from stupid to more stupid, but hopefully a better stupid. Recently watched a little gem on the internet. Now, I don't think this has seen a theatrical release. I kind of don't think it ever will. I don't know. I'll be honest. I watched it through probably less than legal means. Frankly, I'm not even sure if you can even find it anywhere else. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I don't think it's going to get a DVD release. It might. But the name of the movie is Zombie Cats from Mars. I did not stutter. I said that correctly.
Continue.
And you know what? Okay, so imagine the quality of a straight-to-DVD movie, and just throw that away. This is maybe a step or a half step above a home movie. You're in for a treat when in the opening credits there is one there for quote unquote second cameraman. I'm sitting there and I'm watching like, oh, we are on a one-way ticket to Classyville.
They sprung for a second cameraman?
Holy shit, they went and borrowed Dave's camera. This movie, I'll admit, it's very slow to get going, as one would expect from a film called Zombie Cats from Mars. The special effects are second to everything. But it does have a few gems in it that actually does, that kind of keep the movie from being, it kind of helps it transcend that line from so bad it's just shit to so bad it's good in kind of a funny way.
Okay.
One scene in particular involves a cat shooting a man. And I'm just talking regular everyday house cats, okay? Just regular.
How do they get it to shoot a person?
It uses the gun, fool. That's how you shoot people.
Yeah, but how do they get the gun in the cat's paws?
I don't know, but they got a pin in its paws after it shot the man, put the gun in his hand, and then wrote a fake suicide note that says "Goodbye, cruel world." And it showed the little black paw holding a pen and writing. Later on, you see a cat dribbling a basketball, or at least its paw dribbling a basketball. You see multitudes of people running around flailing with stuffed cats on their face, which often don't even align properly with their face. Like, you've seen this one guy, and he's got this fucking stuffed cat on his face, and he's acting like it's attached to his face. Except you can see clearly for several frames that it's actually the cat's chest against his face as he's flailing wildly. And evidently people die from just a few scratches to the face. You never see any real gore. You'll see this dead body. They're just saying they're dead. They've got 3 scratches on their face. And they're all just my God, man. Also evidently the Catholic Church is in league with the zombie cats from Mars.
Are they now?
Yes. Cat. Catholic cat. Yeah, evidently that's what they say. Yeah. So, a little gem on the internet if you ever have a couple of hours to kill and want a few laughs.
I can't even do a bad movie public defender on that because, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? It's zombie cat from Mars.
You got nothing, sir. You got nothing.
No, I have too much. That's the problem.
Yeah, but you have so much that you've got nothing. And I'll just say, look, a cat shoots a dude, puts a gun in his fucking hand and writes a suicide note. Case closed. I'm done here. I am done. That's all I need to fucking say. And I win. I mean, it's not the cinematic masterpiece that Sharknado is.
What about Iron Sky?
No, Iron Sky, I'm sorry, that actually qualifies to me as legitimately good.
Uh-huh.
In terms of sci-fi comedy, I actually put that up there with quote-unquote real movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also looking forward to the sequel. What? What? Sarah Palin's part fucking dinosaur. That's hot. I mean, what? Let's go Jurassic on that ass, baby. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that's, again, if you're ever bored, want to, check that out, then, yeah. That's, you can do worse things with your time, like watch the reboot of Full House, for example.
Indeed you could. Indeed you could. Well, I think that's gonna do it for episode 55 of Basically Geek Show. You can catch us on Twitter at a Geek Show. You can send us an email at basicallygeekshow@gmail.com. You can find the show on iTunes, on YouTube, on Stitcher, on Spreaker, and at the website basicallysportshow.com. Anything else to add, Jack?
Yeah, one more thing. I would actually like to ask both of our listeners if you guys wouldn't mind coming up with some suggestions for us to do for future installments of the Bad Movie Public Defender.
Indeed. So if you guys could just, Twitter, do the Twitters, email, or, just in the thread as usual. But we'd love to, we'd love to hear, if any guys have any more suggestions.
I love how that, for that brief moment, we pretend that we're bigger than what we are, and then we're just like, fuck it, just put it in the thread, guys. Just put it in the fucking thread.
I'm comfortable with our level of non-success, sir. Anyway, this has been Mike and Jack, as usual, signing off.
Good night, everybody.